And we're back. Take two. I believe we left off of your genres. You were
Yeah,
talking about your the derby.
yes. Yeah, I don't know how did you get all of that, or do you want me to back up a little bit?
I got all of it.
Okay. Yeah, so that was just so yeah, primarily urban fantasy with a little bit of a departure. But that's really urban fantasy is my jam because it's a lot of what I like to read also. Um, but I do have other ideas for other stories in the future that are more, a little more fantasy, maybe a little progression fantasy, maybe a little post-apocalyptic. But yeah, so far, I've kind of stuck to my guns.
So do you have a book where all your ideas go to be saved?
I have a Google Doc. It's literally called Ideas, and it's like just I actually I've gotten it to the point where I have to have like header sections now because I have too many things in it. Um, but yeah, that's where my initial thoughts, some of my research, and like as I have ideas, if I don't have a manuscript to put them into right now, that's where I throw them. So yeah, I have a little electronic file with all of my thoughts and meanderings in it.
Um, Talking about thoughts and ideas, what is the strangest place you've had an idea pop into your head?
Oh wow. I mean, I have a lot of like car and shower thoughts for the most part. So I would say like the weirdest time to come to some sort of realization about a piece of plot or storyline is when you're in the shower and it's like conditioner in your hair and you're like, I've solved the problem. And then you're like, but I can't write it down. And I need to not forget this between now and when I'm dry enough to go touch a keyboard. Uh, if my phone was in the bathroom, like I would probably voice note it. That's another thing that I do is if I'm driving, I'll I'll do a, you know, hey, voice assistant, remind me at this time to write down this idea. And like that's kind of how I shorthand it to put it into my ideas document later. So yeah, long car rides and shower thoughts is really kind of the weirdest place, which I get isn't that weird, but I have a lot of weird things that I do, but not a lot of weird places, I guess.
Mine usually hits like right when I lay down and I'm like so tired, and then boom.
I was like,
And
oh
if you don't
no,
write
I
it
have to
down,
wake
it's
up.
gone
Yeah,
forever.
gone forever.
Yeah. So you have a new release coming soon. Can you tell me a little bit, tell everybody a little bit about what it is?
Yeah, so yeah, my last release was at the end of October, which was Let Sleeping Gods Lie. I had another manuscript that I've been sitting on. So the funny thing is, I wrote both Sleeping Gods Lie and this new one, which is called My Brother's Keeper, which are like distinct series. These are both effectively series starters for new series for me. And I wrote both of them at the end and beginning of last year. So like end of 2024, early 2025. And I felt like both of those books had enough commercial potential appeal that I queried them for a while. I had been self-publishing and I decided, you know what? I only have one chance to try this out before because once you self-publish, you're locked in. And so I did that for a while and I got very, very minimal interest. Um, so I've really just kind of had both of these manuscripts burning a hole in my pocket for close to a year. So yeah, that's why like I released at the end of October and I already have another release scheduled for the end of March. And that being that new one is called My Brother's Keeper. It's the first book in what I'm calling the Cycle of Ash, which is to say I don't know if this is going to be a series in the way that most series run. I haven't decided if the second book is going to be centering on the same main character, or if it's going to be centering on a different main character but furthering the overall story. But My Brother's Keeper is what I'm calling, it's a Jewish urban fantasy. Yeah, I'm Jewish. Like I am Jewish, but like mostly non-practicing. I was raised Reform, was bar mitzvahed, but really haven't been to temple in years. And nonetheless, I wanted to, even though I am distinctly non-practicing and at this point really mostly just culturally Jewish as opposed to like spiritually, I still feel connected enough to it that I wondered where the Jewish urban fantasy protagonists were. And they do exist. Like there are Jewish authors and for fantasy and even urban fantasy, but I would say they are not heavily represented. So like I can't say there's no Jewish urban fantasy, but I can definitely say that it is a distinctly less common portion of the subgenre. So My Brother's Keeper approaches magic from the perspective of scripture. So what most people don't know, and this is true of I think both Christianity and Judaism. I am not as familiar with Islam from this perspective, but so I can't say all Abrahamic religions, but Judaism, if you just scratch the surface very lightly, there's a bunch of magic and demonology like right under the surface. In fact, there are books that are specifically books of scripture that are specifically primarily about magic and demonology. And I said, what if I wrote this book from the perspective of a Jewish mystic? So again, there's scripture that talks about witches and whatever being bad, or witchcraft or magic being bad. But if you're a mystic, if you're what's called a wonder rabbi, you can do magic without pissing off God. So My Brother's Keeper is from the perspective of a private investigator named Max, who is a Jewish mystic who comes home to New Haven, Connecticut, to bury his twin brother, Solomon, and then subsequently investigate his suspicious death. So that's kind of the catalyst for the book overall. But I will say, like, we're not supposed to have favorite children, but I love this book. It's probably one of my favorite books that I've written so far, and the reader response to it is great in general. Like from my alpha readers and my editor, and I only have 2 of my ARC readers who've submitted reviews so far. One of which had some odd hangups that I don't really need to go into, but like, let's just say I think most people aren't going to have the same concerns that they did. But like they liked the book overall and thought it was a good read. They just had some criticisms about the villains in the book. But I'll just say the villains in the book are closely analogous to current modern day villains. So if anyone thinks that those villains aren't nuanced enough, then you're not paying attention to how the real world is working right now. But yeah, there's a twist in My Brother's Keeper that catches most people entirely off guard in the best way, and it's getting a lot of really positive feedback. So I'm really looking forward to this one being out there. Which is, if readers like advanced reader copies or advanced review copies, you can sign up on my website. But otherwise, the book comes out March 30th, and I want it in everyone's grubby little hands.
So where do you live?
I live I call it Middle Western Massachusetts. I'm in a little town called Palmer. It's like smack between Worcester and Springfield. So it's not it's it's an hour and change from Boston, and it's like 40 minutes from proper Western Massachusetts, but it's kind of where it is. I'm a Connecticut native though. I grew up in Connecticut from the age of 6. Like I was born in New Jersey, but from 6 until my early 30s, I lived in Connecticut. I lived and went to school in New Haven. So that's why the rule of thumb is try to write what you know. And when you're talking about fantasy, a lot of that is write about the kinds of relationships and things that you know, but you're still going to make up a lot of stuff. For urban fantasy, writing what you know can in fact involve the city that you're most familiar with. So that's what I landed on. I decided that New Haven doesn't get enough love as kind of like the New York City of Connecticut, for being a very cosmopolitan and diverse place. It was my favorite stomping grounds and still is. I actually still spend a lot of time driving to and from New Haven for events. A lot of my books have been written in the coffee shops of New Haven. So yeah, live in Massachusetts, but currently write mostly in Connecticut.
Cool, cool. Um, I asked about your future release, but I forgot to talk about your prior releases in that whole um, series.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're talking, so my first series is called The Devil You Know, which actually I have news for The Devil You Know. But yeah, The Devil You Know currently consists of 3 books. That being My Boss is the Devil, which is the first of the series. It all starts with a down on his luck barista in New Haven, Connecticut, who gets a chance to change his life by working for the devil. And when I say the devil, I mean literally Lucifer himself. So the series kind of takes off from there. The first book focuses on the main character, Nick, and his relationship with the devil. And when I say relationship, no matter how many people ship them together, this is not a romantic relationship. This is a business partnership, and eventually you could say friendship, um, but the devil's got his own aims. The second book, which is called Dueling Shoulder Angels, focuses on Nick and his and the romantic interest from the first book, Amy, who is a witch in her own right, and it starts introducing her as a secondary main character. And then the third book splits into 3 points of view, the third of which we can't talk about because that's a terrible spoiler for books 1 and 2. But
Okay.
book 2 branches out into the devil, but also God. And then book 3 is where things kind of go off the rails in that we start moving outside of the Abrahamic pantheon, and we start introducing other cultures where personification of deity is a thing. Uh, as far as that series, I'm expecting the primary part of the series to only be 4 books, of which I have now drafted the 4th book. The 4th book is it's a play on words. I tend to do a lot of play on words titles, and the phrase "what's a little something among friends," and the title of the 4th book is "A Little Death Among Friends." So don't read too far into what could be a double entendre. It is not that kind of book. But there are, they do continue to be the mostly healthy romantic relationships that exist in my little universe. So A Little Death Among Friends is fully drafted. It's with my alpha readers. Currently, it's getting positive feedback. I don't expect there to be a lot of changes before I do a self edit pass and then pass it off to my editor. So I would expect book 4 to be out probably, I don't know, let's say June or July this year.
And you have other books You
Yeah,
put them all up there.
yeah. So, okay, there is a prequel to The Devil You Know. It's a little short story called The Thief of Joy. And I actually publish my work through my own publishing company called Caffeinated Terrier Press, but it's also the publishing company that a local authors co-op that I am a part of. I work with the authors in that co-op that if they want to publish through the imprint, they can and do. So, for example, like my friend Lori Nielsen just published her debut novel, Down the Rabbit Hole, which is her Liminal Spaces series through the Caffeinated Terrier Press imprint. And my friend Tal Good also publishes through the imprint. So we actually did a very little like micro anthology called A Season for Stories. And it actually features a short story from 4 authors from the co-op. It's me, Lori Nielsen, Tal Good, and David Nemitz. And each of those short stories is effectively a prequel or a side short story for the existing worlds that we have. So while you can get the Thief of Joy for free in ebook form on my website by signing up for my newsletter, you can also get the Thief of Joy and 3 other great little short stories if you pick up A Season for Stories. In addition to that, I have another book which is called Let Sleeping Gods Lie, which is the first book in what I'm calling the Chronicles of Corbin Pierce. Corbin Pierce is a archaeology. He's an archaeologist slash anthropologist, become community college professor, who takes on his own personal job in trying to protect the indigenous spiritual flora and fauna of the area. It's another separate series. The magic system in that one is very much focused on magic as a natural resource that the bad guys exploit. There's a evil cabal of high magicians that Corbin goes up against. It is anti-capitalist, anti-colonialist, and the way that this series is working, I know I have it in the foreword about, or in the author's note about the book, but for the series in general, 10% because it focuses on indigenous myths. I myself am not an indigenous person. The main character is not an indigenous person because that's not my perspective to write from. But I really wanted to center it on the myths and legends of the area because Connecticut has a rich past and current indigenous community and a lot of myths from there. So 10% of all of the profits from any book sales, any format, like even once I get audiobooks done, whatever format it's in for this whole series, 10% goes to a 501c3 nonprofit called Not Our Native Daughters, whose mission is to solve the missing, murdered, and exploited Indigenous women's crisis.
Yes, I'm familiar with that. It's a good cause.
It is, yeah. And I think because I think I already talked about Underleveled as part of the Inkport Derby, so I think that I hate to I feel like at this point is like, is that all? Oh, I suppose I should also mention that I narrate my own audiobooks for the first series. So books 1 and 2, so My Boss is the Devil and Dueling Shoulder Angels, are both available widely as audiobooks narrated by myself, and then also me and my partner Katya Gruhala. We're working on the 3rd book right now, but it's a little slower going than I like, but it will eventually come out. So yeah, I have a lot of books out and a lot of irons in the fire currently because I'm also still writing. I'm writing book 2 of the Corbin Pierce books right now.
Do you narrate for other people?
I do sometimes. I've done some work for as far as like books. I've been part of full cast narration by books done by Total Immersion Narration, and specifically, it's The Worshipped Around Reality's Bend, which is a series by Clint Baker. I have like 3 or 4 different parts across 2 books. The second book is coming out soon. And I've also done some short work. I narrated another Clint Baker story, but it was a sci-fi horror for a podcast called Redacted Tales by Clarence Carter, which is really it's a good little kind of creepy podcast. So yeah, I will sometimes do narration for other people. I try not to take on big projects because I've got so much going on with my own narration that I'm not done with. But yeah, I do it a little bit on the side.
What about your cover artist or illustrator? Do you do that
So
yourself or?
no, what is it? Physician, know thyself. Know what you're good at, and I am not an artist. All of my covers, actually, I can't say all. Yeah, okay. So The Devil You Know, those covers are done by Get Covers, which is the budget arm of a European company. I believe they're in Ukraine. It's so the parent company is called Miblart, and the budget arm of them. Hold on one second. Excuse me. The budget arm of Miblart is called Get Covers, and they've done a fantastic job. Like, I absolutely adore my covers from Get Covers. Like, they do such a good job on these. Um,
Mhm.
Let Sleeping Gods Lie was actually it was released first with a temporary cover that was also done by Get Covers, and I liked it. But I had fallen in love with the idea of a fully illustrated cover for this one, because one of the other things is I'm trying to make each of my series distinct from a cover design perspective, because I don't want anyone to
Mhm.
think that they are related. They're all like alternate universe New Havens, but they don't touch. They're like separate cosmologies. So for Let Sleeping Gods Lie, this is a fully illustrated cover by Miblart, the parent company of Get Covers. So I'm still within the same cover ecosystem. Um, the cover for Underleveled is provided as part of the Inkfort Publishing Derby. So that cover was actually done by Ino, or Ino, I-N-O, who does the cover art. And then the cover for A Season for Stories, this is a canvas by Sarah Murphy, who has done the cover art for David Niemitz's book. Dave, just to flip the script and do this the way that we should sometimes. So David Niemitz is Sarah Murphy's husband. So Sarah Murphy, an artist in her own right. So yeah, that the covers for my books are primarily done by Get Covers and Miblart. For my next book, My Brother's Keeper, that is also a Get Covers cover, and it is stunning. Like, Robin, you've seen it. I love that cover. And again, like, design wise, first series is silhouette focused, second series is character focused, and then the third series is object focused. So that, like, there's a matchbox on the third cover. So yeah, distinct design concepts, a lot of the same artists though.
That's really cool. Excuse me. Now that it's a new year, are you going to be at any festivals or set up anywhere? Bookstores?
So I got involved with other than having the publishing company myself, I'm at least I'm a member of the is it the hold on, I just joined recently. So it's the Fantasy Author Legion, which is like a New England based, or it's more like East Coast, because it also goes down as far as like the DMV. but they organize some events, so I'm gonna hopefully do at least a signing or two that's organized through them. I think there might be a signing in West Hartford, Connecticut in May that I'm trying to get in on. I
Mhm.
just did a signing in Hadley, Massachusetts, a couple months ago. So this year, I don't know. Events are tough. Like, I have my son every other week, and so a lot of the events that I've wanted to do, even just starting this year, there's one that I did last year that just happened in January. But like he's not of an age where I can just bring him with me and set him loose for the afternoon. So it kind of it limits how many in-person events I really can or want to do. I love doing them. I love meeting people and introducing new readers to my books. But yeah, people will have to keep an eye on my website to see whether or not there are going to be any events that I end up doing.
That makes sense. A lot of people are having a hard time, well, last year, um, having a hard time going to these events and speaking and not really selling anything, not even making up their table fee. So
Yeah,
it has been.
it's a weird, I mean, okay, just to acknowledge the elephant in the room, because I have said this on social media. Anyone who is capable of making art right now in like the face of the current fall of civilization is like seriously punk rock. We're doing our best out here, but it's bad for everyone. Like readers are in a weird spot, authors are in a weird spot, uh, business is bad for everyone. The economy is in the toilet, and there's also a ton of these events are being run by people who have no business running events because they don't actually know what they're doing. So the events themselves
Mhm.
are not designed to help authors succeed. And that's unfortunate, but it's also why a lot of authors, I think, in 2026 are going to be very wary of new events. Like, if you're not an event that's been around for a while, we're probably not going to trust that you actually can bring an audience to the event. Because, yeah, it ends up being authors are just attending events with other authors, and you're not making up your table fee, and it's just the event organizers who are collecting table fees and what few tickets they can sell, but otherwise they end up owing people a bunch of money and then never paying them back. I'm looking at you, A Million Lives Book Festival or whatever your name was.
Let's see, what was I going to say? I'm sorry. Brain fog.
Totally fine.
So, how off topic? How old is your son?
Oh, he's going to be 10 next month.
Aw, that's
I can tell you I
love
can
when
tell
they're
you a really
young.
really cute story though. Uh
Mhm.
so so my book Underleveled, it's not young adult, but it's not terribly inappropriate. Like the language is fine, and yes, there's some violence and death, but no worse than he sees on TV or plays video games about, for things that are even allegedly
Mhm.
appropriate for 10-year-olds. And he had a book report to do in October, and the topic of the book report was fantasy. Like it was, or fiction. Like he had to pick a fiction book, and um, he had picked a book, and I was talking to him. I was like, "Hey, bud, you got to start working on your book report." And he says, "Oh, and I had said to him, "Hey, I have this new book, and I would love to read it to you at bedtime." Because it's something that we used to do. We'd kind of gotten away from it because he's been reading a lot for school, so he hasn't necessarily been like into being read to. Um, and but I said, "Hey, I've got this book. It's got this dinosaur on this cover, and I think it's a fun story that you would really like. I would love to read it to you. And so he was thrilled about that. And we started reading it. And then, now fast forward like 2 weeks. And I'm like, hey, you got to do your book report. And he says, I really don't want to do my book report on this book that I already picked. I want to do my book report on Underleveled. And I was like, okay, so here's the deal. Number one, are you sure? Because like it's not the book that you picked. And number two, you would have to clear it with your teacher because you're not reading the book. I'm reading it to you because it's more advanced than like a grade 4 book. But like if she's okay with it and signs off on it, then you do what you want. I want you to, God forbid you be excited about a book. So he clears it with his teacher, and then we spend the next couple weeks like speed reading the book together in the evenings, and he's like totally into it. And then he does his book report, and he gets a 98 on it, and like he's telling all of his friends about it. Like it was the sweetest thing ever, in that like I I did not have any I did not influence the situation in any way. I had no desire to have his friends learn about who I was as a person. Uh, but yeah, it was fantastic because like he literally he's been more interested in reading and more excited about books in general since that. So like I'll take it as a win.
That must have been so cool and validating for you.
It was the sweetest, just because like it independently he would like talk to me about stuff that's happening in the book, and like tell me his theories about like what was going to be happening next. And like it was so rewarding from like a connection perspective. I did love it. um I think it turned out great in the end.
That is so cool. Um, is there a genre that you refuse to write?
I wouldn't say refuse to write. I have genres that I'm less interested in considering, but like, so I'm not a romance reader. I'm not a romance writer. But what I will say is the romantic subplots that I have in The Devil You Know, uh, it's actually like for some readers, the way that I write relationships and like the way that I portray them in healthy ways, they seem to really like that. And so like it's not off the table that I could write like a cozy romance. I'm not interested in writing
Mhm.
spicy books. Like it's not that I couldn't, it's that I don't want to. Um, so I'm not interested in romantasy as a writer. Like I would write a contemporary romance and a high fantasy separately before I would ever consider writing a romantasy, but that's just because I'm kind of sick of the genre as a social, like the social zeitgeist. I am tired of romantasy. And it's not that the books are bad, it's that I'm kind of just tired of it. um which I don't know if that sounds good or bad, but like again, no shade to the people who read it, no shade to the people who write it. It's like hearing about a really popular movie for so long that you just kind of hate the concept of the movie and you don't want to watch it yourself. That's where I'm at with it.
Um, one of the questions I usually ask everybody is about imposter syndrome.
Yes, go ahead. What about it?
Uh, do you suffer from it? Do you have different uh, tricks to help with that? That kind of thing.
Yeah, so in all aspects of my life, I have suffered from imposter syndrome. And unfortunately, I really think imposter syndrome stems from so many artists in general. I include authors as well as other medium. Um, so many artists are just like three neurodivergent raccoons in a trench coat. um I really feel like imposter syndrome is like this weird combination of low self-esteem, growing up in traumatic family situations, and like rejection sensitive dysphoria. Like there are so many things stacked against us as people when it comes to feeling like we're imposters in our own lives when we're actually like perfectly capable human beings. So I absolutely have suffered and still do suffer from imposter syndrome, though I'll say the more I write and the more I publish, the less I feel like an imposter. And some of that is just because um, one thing to help treat imposter syndrome is if you can actually convince yourself that you can't make everyone happy. If you accept that you cannot make everyone happy, then some of imposter syndrome can like be lessened, because a lot of what we feel as imposters is like, oh, I'm an imposter. I'm going to be caught out for being a hack, a terrible artist, a terrible human. Everyone's going to figure it out and it's all going to come crashing down. And then like, just remember who's president in 2026, and you can never feel like an imposter again. Um, you know, we're all doing fine. You're all doing fine. You can't make everyone happy, and you're not an imposter. You just haven't necessarily like even if you're not getting great feedback, chances are you just haven't found the right audience for your art yet, and you will, and that's okay. So I really think like a lot of being an
Mhm.
imposter has to do with negative self-talk. And one thing that we try to do in my house is to not do negative self-talk. It's like don't talk bad about yourself or what you're doing, or reframe it in such a way. It's like, if you feel like what you just wrote was bad, don't say, "Oh man, I'm a terrible writer." You say, "You know what? I think I'm going to have a lot of work to do to make this draft like sing, but I've got words on the page." Like, focus on the things that make it sound like you're accomplishing your goals instead of putting yourself down.
Exactly. Yeah. So I have a group, a Facebook group that is called Reading Between the Spines,
Hmm.
underscore before, after each word, I mean. And I like to think that it's a safe community, um, because some of the other communities I'm in, they are horrible. They're mean to each other. They're canceling each other. They're accusing each other, and it's a shame because not only with authors being the way they are, but readers, if the readers see that, then they're just going to be like, "Oh my god, this, or they'll even believe some of the lies or whatever is going on." And I think it puts a stain on a community. So, do you know of a way to deal with that?
A-
Do you
as
get
a as an
involved with those groups, or
Okay,
go
so
ahead?
there's a lot to unpack there. I'm a member of a lot of different communities, a lot of Discord servers, a number of Facebook communities, and um, I think it really all depends on. So there are things that okay, everyone deserves a safe space. Some topics do not deserve safety, but those are the fundamental topics like bigotry and racism. Like, that doesn't exist in a safe space. You can't allow that kind of stuff to exist in safe spaces because it makes
Mhm.
them inherently unsafe. Um, so in general, I, I block a lot of people. Like if there are people who are going to espouse ideas or thoughts that aren't in line with what I accept in my experience, I'm gonna block them. I'll engage with people in good faith if they're engaging from a place of good faith, because um, the question you have to ask yourself or ask the other person is, are you interested in changing your worldview? So, for example, I'm very against generative AI in the arts, especially. And if I see people who are promoting the use of generative AI in the arts, I often will just either block or not engage with those people. But if I see people who are doing it out of a misunderstanding of the harm that it does to artists, I've engaged with some people and offered options to them that are like, for example, I'll see new authors who are coming in with covers that are made by generative AI, and they're like, I did this because I can't afford a cover. And then I will say, hey, friend, you can go to Get Covers, and for $35, you can get a deluxe package, and you're going to get a stunning cover that is not this. Um, and so, like, some people just don't
Mhm.
know. And so, again, if people are engaging in good faith, I'll engage in good faith with them. But, like, if people are just showing up to cancel other people for things that are not fundamental, like, human experience things, like, unless you're canceling an author for being a bigot or a racist, um, I'm gonna have a hard time supporting that viewpoint unless it's for a very clear reason. Like, again, bigotry, racism, clearly illegal, unethical activities, those kinds of things. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Are you thinking about it from any other perspective in engagement when it comes to those communities?
No, I'm just thinking about that. And on one hand, you have the argument of that. And then on the other hand, you have what I write is not me. So, like, if you write about serial killers, you know, you're not one, usually. Usually,
I
you're not
I
one.
would
And a
I would
lot of
hope
people
not.
get, readers get, yeah, but readers really take it into consideration that, hey, this person is writing this like splatter punk, he's a real creep or a killer or some or deranged, and it's not that way. You are not what you write, and a lot of readers have a hard time with that.
Those readers are in the wrong genre. Um, Yeah, like if you're engaging with splatterpunk content and you can't separate from the art from the artist, that's a problem. Now, if they know something about the author that we don't, that is relevant to the conversation, great. But yeah, if they're just saying like this author writes creepy things and is therefore creepy, then they need to do some self-examination of how they engage with reality, because that's a problem. So yeah, I would not give those people a platform. I would, if I was in those communities and someone said that, I think there'd be a lot of feedback of like, is there a reason that you think this? Otherwise, you need to retract these statements because they're just factually inaccurate, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So, can you go through your process of from thought to the um, marketing with any tips that you might have?
I can try. So, rule number one, you can't publish a book you haven't written. So, write the book. And by write the book, I mean try not to overly, like, there are people who say never edit as you go. I will say don't edit too much as you go. If you have ideas that need to like change, that's fine. But like there are people who will write a chapter and then go back and edit that chapter and then go back and edit that chapter again. Don't do that. Just keep writing. So from the thought, do what you need to do to organize your thoughts. If that's an outline, great. If that's a beat sheet, great. If you're a pure pantser and all you want to do is like bang on a keyboard, great, do that. But you can't publish a book that you haven't written. Once you've written the book, you need to read it again. And you need to make sure that it makes sense. That's where if you don't use a beat sheet, it's a good time after you write the draft to look at a beat sheet and say, what makes for a good story? Does my story follow the relevant parts of storytelling to tell a coherent tale? If so, great. Then you probably want to put it into the hands of your earliest reader or readers. I will say also, one step that I always do is I read the book aloud to my partner, Kat. Some people use like words, text to speech to read it to them. I hate that. I can't do it. I read aloud to my partner. And then that's actually one of the best ways to find issues with the cadence of your sentences is to read them aloud and then trip over them. So once you've done that, put it in someone's hands to get some early feedback and put it in the hands of someone that isn't just going to blow smoke up your ass and like tell you that it's the best thing that they've ever read, because you need someone who's going to like actually tell you if the story has problems. Is there a plot hole? Are characters unlikable? Do you not go into enough detail about what's going on? Do you go into too much detail? Is this an Anne Rice situation and you've described the coffin for 5 chapters? You know, so you need someone who's going to give you good feedback. Word of caution, you need to be able to trust these people. You cannot go on the internet and look for alpha and beta readers and then hire people off of Fiverr, because they're going to shove your manuscript into ChatGPT and then spit out a report and then hand it to you. You need like real people with real opinions who are real readers that are going to give you an honest critique of your work. You can also work with like critique circles for authors, but honestly, I love the concept. I don't have time. I don't have time to read other people's unfinished work. Like I read for enjoyment. So like I'll take an arc read from an author that I like if it's something that I think I'm going to enjoy, but like I don't have time to do critique circle stuff because otherwise I'll never get anything done. Like I have a full-time job and a family and my own work. So yeah, find alpha and beta readers that you can trust. Then get an editor. Can you make it without an editor? Yes. Do you accept the risk that you are going to put out what looks like a potentially unfinished product? Also, yes. I have a fantastic editor. Her name is Catherine McIntyre. She is a romance author, also an editor. She does a great job with my books, and my books are better for having her as an editor. And honestly, as an author, you will learn so much about writing a cleaner story after having your book edited even once, because then everything that you learn from going through those edits, you are then going to apply to your next books. And like, not for nothing, but like my editor has said, it has been really nice seeing the growth of your writing as we've gone through each of your books. And like, that's how it's supposed to be. So like, can you self-edit? Yes, you will get better at that also, but it is really worth the money to find and you can get one that's relatively affordable. You don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on an editor. You really just need you need a good copy and line edit before you go into arc reads. And like, you can get that for relatively affordable money. Then you got to format the book. I use Atticus because it was affordable and I was going to use it on enough books to make it totally worth doing. You can make do with free tools like Readsy or even just using Word, but I hate both of those options, so I got Atticus. Then you have to deal with whether you're doing ARCs. I highly recommend doing advanced review copies because getting reviews on release day is a way to help people understand that your book is worth reading. As a reader, I want to see more than a handful of reviews on a book. I will take chances, but the reality is, like, I want at least double-digit reviews on a book so I can get varying opinions on it. And like, you want real reviews. All 5-star reviews means the only people who have read this book are your friends and family. I want to see a well-written 3-star review telling me that this is a good read, but I had these issues with the book. Because again, not every book is for everyone. My latest book, Let Sleeping Gods Lie, no one agrees on whether the pacing is right. Okay. In the funniest part of this, though, authors like the pacing. Authors who are also readers tend to really like the pacing. Readers who are not urban fantasy readers find the pace challenging. Readers who are urban fantasy readers usually are like mostly fine with it. They think maybe there's a couple like spots here and there, but like no one agrees. No one agrees on whether my book is well paced. I have at least a couple 3-star reviews saying I struggled with the pacing. Does that mean the pacing in my book is wrong? No. Does that mean the pacing in my book is right? Also no. But like, it means that there are real people reading my books, you know? So yeah, you want ARC reviews, you want real people reading and reviewing your book because it gives not just a sense, but it gives real legitimacy to you as an author to say, look, some people love this book, some people think it's fine. Generally speaking, no one hates it. That means this book is at least fine, which is like head over heels better than a lot of the stuff that's out in the market right now. And then marketing is a dystopian hellscape. What else? What can I say about that?
Yes.
Social media is a minefield that is never to be enjoyed. Marketing is a money trap, money pit that you're just going to keep throwing money into. Don't market your first book if it's your only book. Just write the next book. Like, market series. Don't market individual books because you're not going to make your money back on them. Like, market it from a social media standpoint, but don't pay money for ads if you only have one book out. You will not make your money back on one book unless it's like romance. Cause I have this like mental beef with romance authors because of what seems to be like the built-in like bankrolling audience that seems to buy romance novels hand over fist for no reason other than they tear through books so fast. And it seems like romance authors can make money back on one book, but like no one else can. Like high fantasy, urban fantasy, contemporary fiction, we're not making money back on one book. Romance, fine, do whatever. Romance, the rules don't apply to you, and I don't know why. But don't spend money on ads for just your debut novel because you're probably not going to make the money back. And other than that, just keep writing books. The biggest adage is books sell books. So write more books. Books will bring your audience to your other books. It isn't one-to-one. Like, just because I put out Let Sleeping Gods Lie, it doesn't mean that everyone who read My Brother's Keeper goes and checks that book out, or vice versa. But like, you can't get cross-pollination unless you have things to cross-pollinate.
Makes sense.
I realize that was a lot.
Well, no, it's perfect. It's really perfect. I always have these like questions in my head and want to ask and figure it out. And I never have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I mean, also, like, one of the best things about being an independent author is the indie author community. Like, I have been helped by so many other indie authors and indie narrators. I am here to help. if there are authors who are like, how do I do XYZ? Like, hit me up, contact me through my website, on social media, whatever, ask me questions. I'll be your friend. You know, like we're here, we're in these trenches together because we've chosen not to follow the path of masochism that is traditional publishing. It's a different kind of masochism. We've chosen the masochism that is self-publishing. So yeah, we're here for each other, and I'm here for you. And so everyone should always feel free to reach out with questions because, you know, well, we want to pay it forward.
Exactly. Well, coming to the end, can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yes. So you can always find me at my website, which is benschenkman.com. You can find me on social media. I've got all my links there. My books. Ebooks are available through Amazon only because they are available in Kindle Unlimited. You can get your paperbacks and hardcovers wherever you prefer to get them because those are widely available. Audiobooks for books 1 and 2 of my first series, The Devil You Know, are available widely wherever you like to purchase audiobooks. The third one will be coming out hopefully later this year. And it starts out exclusive to Audible, but then within 90 days, I make it wide. So yeah, mostly on Amazon, and then you can always reach out to me if you can't find my books somewhere.
Very good. Well, thank you for sitting here and answering all my questions that seem a little weird. So
Not weird at
I
all,
will
Robin. Thank you for having me.
anytime, and would not mind you coming back on my group for the day you release your book. That would be, you can go live and maybe or post whenever you want on my group.
Absolutely. I will. I'm gonna join right after this.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you. Bye.